Dial H number 9, written by China Maiville, art by Alberto Ponticelli. Last issue, the Centipede managed to steal the dial away, and this issue picks up exactly where we left off. And Nelson's just on the ground like, oh my god, he has the dial. As Centipede's like, I know what this is. I know its backstory. I know how to use it. And he starts spinning the dial, but then nothing happens. And Nelson takes the confusion opportunity to land a nice little sucker punch right across Centipede's face. And as he tries throwing a second punch, Centipede, it's like, I'm sorry, you think you can take me? And he's like, nope, but I'm a good distraction. As Roxy comes up from behind with a taser, giving them just enough time to have Roxy dial the dial and get a giant Minotaur, which I'm not sure what his name is, but regardless, she throws him halfway across the street and then uses her abilities to create a maze around him that he's going to be unable to get out of. And she picks up a bag that she had nearby and picks up Nelson, and they start running down the street far away. And it turns out that, she deduced this guy is a government agent. They've already tracked where they are. They must know they're at the hotel, so they're going to have to go on the run. She just grabbed whatever she could out of the hotel room and bailed. So she reverse dials. She starts turning back into herself. And she's like, okay, I didn't have my mask on for like 3 minutes there, and already I was starting to crumble. I don't know how you managed to keep your sanity straight, Nelson. And he's like, you're the brains, I'm the brawn. I'm tougher than I look. And they just like share a little moment that gets very awkward very quickly, and just like, okay, anyway, so what'd you manage to grab? And it's just like a few masks and notebooks, but luckily her laptop. So at that point, they are able to get going, but Roxy points out, this guy probably knows more about the dial than I do, and we need to figure out how he knows that. So then we get a walkthrough of the facility that is keeping track of the dial, and they make their way deeper and deeper down. And when I say they, it's just two scientists who are talking to each other with Centipede following up behind, and they don't even recognize that he's there. He's so stealthy and quiet. And when he finally makes himself known, they're both just like, oh my god, he's so cute. I would totally want to ask him out, but like, he's also creepy as hell and I don't want to go near him. So at that point, he goes and talks to a nearby general named General Collar. And we see that the dial that they have on their end, the one who attacked Nelson last issue, he is currently getting some brain tests done and stuff like that. And no one can understand why he like froze up, why he was unable to do anything there. And they were hoping that Centipede would be able to figure it out, be able to understand what was going on. And he claims that he has some sort of idea, but like, he's not sure. He's still trying to suss out exactly what's up. So they did manage to shoot down like these guys that they're going against. They don't have any sort of like hypnotic powers or anything like that, but something managed to make it so that not only were they lost there, but Centipede also, quote unquote, lost them in the crowd. Because remember, he didn't let on that he actually managed to get his hands on the dial. So at this point, we get a fight scene where Centipede's fighting some robots that look as though they have some sort of like, maybe it's supposed to be electricity, but it looks like the void magic from last arc. But regardless, he goes ahead, he beats them all down. And it's like, all right, well, whatever it was that made you lose them, it's not affecting you now. You're at top peak physical condition. So you go ahead and sort out what needs to be sorted out here. And he claims in his inner monologue, like, I do know more than she knows, but she knows different things than I know. And if we could put our knowledge together, we could know everything there is to know about the dial. So at that point, we see he is presented by General Collar. He's like, look, the higher-ups don't like your code name of Centipede, but I really pushed for it, and you're allowed to keep it. But if you're going to be forward-facing to the country, you're going to need to fit the part. And he's like, I'm kind of a spy. I don't really work as a forward-facing guy, but regardless, they hand him a centipede mask, which is just horrific looking. It's on the cover of this issue. And apparently, like, it allows you to see in like infrared and ultraviolet and stuff like that. And the antennas are just antennas. They don't do anything. So he's forced to use that for as long as he wants to be the centipede. So turns out They downloaded a bunch of files and stuff like that. They've been poring over them, but the real things that are of interest to Centipede are in Roxy's notebooks, which he failed to mention that he collected. So he's poring over those. Meanwhile, Roxy and Nelson have managed to track their way into a building that is right outside of this government payroll center, which Roxy has used security cameras and stuff like that to deduce, like, there's a whole bunch of soldiers and like psychiatrists and a whole bunch of people who would have no reason of going into this building going in. So this must be the one where they're keeping the dial at. And so they just take turns dialing. Roxy's not feeling up to doing it, so Nelson takes it and starts dialing through, trying to find a hero that they can use to sneak in there. Meanwhile, because the government center is studying the dial, they have a wavelength they're keeping an eye on, and they see that somebody is dialing right now and it's not their guy. So they are on red alert. Meanwhile, Nelson manages to dial into a hero called The Glimpse, which I love as a character because you can only see him just leaving the panel. He's always out of the corner of your eye. You can never quite get a lockdown on him, and it's perfect for sneaking in. So at that point, they set up the comm system, and Roxy, before she set up the microphone, kind of confesses to Nelson, like, you're much better at this and than you give yourself credit for, and I'm happy to be with you. But she's not admitting that to Nelson yet. So Glimpse makes his way into the building, and he lets Roxy know, like, yeah, no, this place is crazy. This is absolutely insane. Like, they've got so much high-tech stuff down here. They're clearly going after the dial. And Roxy reminds him, like, look, we're there for information. Don't grab the dial yet. It's too risky. We just want to find out what they know and how they know it. The Centipede realizes, like, they must be in here. They must have dialed a hero. Even if we can't find them, they're in here, so we need to be on red alert. So he makes his way to the guy who's in the room, and he's like, hey, look, suit up. You're going to have to get the dial ready because they're coming for you. And he makes his way trying to find out wherever Nelson is. And during his internal monologue, he talks about the end of issue, I think it was 5, the end of the Void arc, and he's saying, like, they didn't even know what was coming for them. What was that thing that took the dial to that other universe? And apparently it was called an unstuck fixer. And if he had known that they had a dial on him, he would have come for them too. So it's a whole big thing that he knows, like, the lore behind this. But anyway, Glimpse is making his way deeper in there, and finally he comes to a hallway where Centipede is standing, and he just walks right by him because his power is he can't really be truly noticed. But because of Centipede's new mask, he's not looking at the Glimpse. He's looking at, like, infrared afterimaging of him, and he is able to see that. So he calls up the soldier on the walkie-talkie and says, like, hey, he's here. He's right outside your door. He's coming in. You got to dial. And he's like, I don't want to, because the soldier is going through the same mental things that Nelson goes through, of being unsure of, like, who he is after the fact. But Centipede manages to, like, scare him enough to basically turn the dial, saying that the door's open. And once Glimpse makes his way inside, it's nothing but darkness, save for the guy who is now turned into the Bristol Bloodhound, which is just a dog's head on a sack of missiles. And that's the issue. It's good. It's solid. It is really hard to explain all the lore behind this. I had just as much of this problem in the first half of the story, but with this, at least I'm understanding it as it's laying it out. The first one, I just felt more confused. This one, I feel I have a real grasp on it. And it is a very, I don't want to say in-depth, but a very well thought out story. It is laying down these pieces early on that they're going to pay off way down the road. And I'm just enjoying it. This does only go until issue 15, so we might wrap this arc up soon, but if we don't within, like, I'd say the next issue, I have a feeling that this is going to be the final arc that takes us to the end. So I am at least interested to see how we manage to pan it out and if this is going to be a much bigger thing than we think it will.